Two. Began to make a video before and it was interrupted by a call, so maybe I need to start making the videos on flight mode. But yeah, something that's becoming clear that I want to start to talk about is opening up space within the body to listen to the body. It's become very clear to me that there are many numbing behaviours that we collectively are indulging in. You know, recently talking about medications and thinking about specifically children on medication, but actually a lot of adults are on medication, especially for pain. And well, how I got to this reasoning was that I decided today that I was going to walk into the centre and going to, we'll go this way. I decided today that I was going to go into the centre and make a vlog video relating to some of the stuff that I'd covered recently and going over some of the content that I had missed out. Because it's quite a challenge actually remembering everything in my mind at the same time as presenting to an inanimate object. And I'm learning lots about this process, and I have massive amounts of respect for people who are presenters or talkers or comedians, performers. So yeah, having looked over the old content, I want to avoid the idea of using this space to simply just vent and not give anything constructive. And what I began to think about is what is the direction that I want to take these videos in, and what is the direction that I want to take this channel in. And as I've mentioned previously, what I would like to share is my own experiences and tools that I've come across that have helped me to develop and to be able to function within society. And so, thinking about breathing space and what's going on just now, and lots of people in kind of sheltering at home or in isolation and quarantine and these kind of things, starting to think about what that offers us in terms of our inner world or our personal development. And I'm starting to think that it's given us time to think and to feel, and possibly even to cut out some of these numbing behaviours that are existing. I'm sure, like me, most of you are getting fed up of Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, not because of their censorship or what's going on, but the fact that these echo chambers are just circulating the same stuff day to day, and in a normal day we might not actually be engaging or indulging in these processes so much. It's just that in this time we've got so much time on our hands, what else do we fill it with? And starting to think about how people are, what kind of things people use for numbing behaviours. Sometimes it's food, or maybe it's medication, or maybe it's the computer or the phones. And starting to think about what it is that we're numbing from. And the example that I had in my mind was relating to pain relief medication. So it could be the case that you're someone that lives with pain or inflammation within the body, and that you have been for a long time on a pain suppressant or a pain relief kind of medication. And I start to think about, well, what is pain and what is the body, and recognise that actually the body is a feedback system. The body is an environmental feedback system that tells the mind that something's going on. So as I'm walking today, I've got some shoes on and I could feel that the ankle part is rubbing against my skin, and there's a feedback there telling me that that's happening to make me aware, so that the skin doesn't come off and then I start to bleed. So if I was to take a painkiller to get rid of that sensation, it doesn't remove the problem. And actually, I think this is a relevant metaphor for some of the numbing behaviours that we are existing in. So there is it seems like we often take the physical body for granted, and the only time we begin to tune into that is when it's presenting us with problems. And then more often than not, the solution to that problem is a suppressant or a mask to remove the sensation and allow us to go about business as normal. But one of these problems that can be existing out with the physical sensation is an emotional kind of pain that is definitely a thing amongst the people. It's something that I've suffered with quite a bit in my past, in my history, and what I wanted to start to identify is that, well, what is that sensation and how can we release that, and what is that feedback, what is it trying to tell us? And in my own experience, it's that when we suffer from grief or from sadness or from anger, that these are signals from our environment inside our body that are telling us something isn't right. And so we make these adaptations to protect ourselves in the future. But quite often what happens is that when we step into a new environment where the threat is no longer there, we carry this mechanism with us that is designed to protect us. And it's not always necessarily relevant in the new environment. And so I think this time that we're in, it's actually given us a moment for reflection and to give us space to begin to tune into these things within the body. And if you're using the awareness meditation that I spoke about recently, this is essentially the nuts and bolts of this kind of system or program, is to begin to create space and to scan the body, to be able to tune into what's going on within the body, and that will allow you to then really create a map of what's going on in there. And from that map we could then begin to chart the territory and create a route forward to alleviate the pain and suffering and move into a space of harmony within life. And so I start to think about what's been going on within my own body and the resistance that comes up, and I'm starting to put this resistance into different kind of categories. So on the one hand, there can be a resistance within the body because there is a physical or physiological issue that needs to be listened to, and I think in those kind of circumstances it's important to listen to that. And it can be the case that sometimes you should push through physical pain. Maybe if you're an athlete, and you have to push through to finish the race, that's totally fine. But I think, like, for most people in life, really we should be listening to our body and letting that lead the way, instead of dismissing the needs of the body for the wants of or desires of the mind. Because sooner or later we're going to have to deal with this. Sooner or later we're going to have to deal with it. And actually, the longer we wait and the more we ignore, then the greater the problem is going to be. And so we could begin to now, in a time and space where we actually feel kind of okay, or maybe you've got some long-term health problems, it's never actually too late or too early to begin to tune into the body. And so that's the first thing was, where is the resistance coming from? And then I was beginning to project that kind of question outwards into my environment and into an emotional context, and to see if the emotional pain that we're feeling is coming from other people or is it coming from ourselves. And there's not going to be any progression in your kind of internal world without looking inward first. But what will begin to happen is, the more you start to look in and start to tune into what's going on and start to release these tensions and traumas within the body, then your outer world will begin to reflect that. And when you come across a difficult situation where there's a drama or a trauma or or an unhealthy energetic or emotional connection at play, you'll be less likely to react and continue the cycle of passing on pressure to the next person. And so, yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there and start to digest this kind of information, and in the next couple of days I'll make a video relating specifically to emotions as signposts and finding and gathering direction. So yeah.